Coming up later in the podcast.
The only qualification that you need to know that this is bad is a set of eyes. That's all. Like,
Yeah.
fucking Jesus, like, oh, mother of God almighty. Like, I'm actually flabbergasted at, like, how fucking bad it was. Like, I actually have absolutely no fucking doubt in my mind that you would have fucking delivered a better as Agent Smith. Do you know something? Actually, do you know what? You'd have delivered a better performance as fucking Morpheus as well for that fucking... Oh, fuck. This movie has actually gifted me a renewed faith in a higher power, actually, and I can tell you how that came about.
Please do. Hello everybody, Magic Skeptic here, aka Magic Dara, and you're all welcome to another episode of A Magician's Thoughts. I'm joined here by frequent contributor PJ from the awesome channel Just a Tip, and as promised in the past, PJ and I are going to discuss the fourth and hopefully, in my view, final Matrix film, that being the Matrix Resurrections. PJ and I have just come out from having seen it. Truth be told, we haven't seen it together because of COVID and the craziness of the world. I've watched it in the UK and PJ has watched it in Ireland. That said, we're both fresh out of a screening. My screening only ended about an hour ago. I think PJ is more or less the same. So PJ, you're very welcome to the channel. I can't wait to discuss this trough of shit.
Yeah. You just mentioned there, you know, the whole the trials and tribulations of living in the Omnicron universe and all that, and all that comes with it, and the pandemic and the cases going through the roof. But with all of that said, you know, how bad all of that is dwarfed by how bad a fucking film that was. Mother of divine Jesus. I know people have lost loved ones to this virus, have had their businesses destroyed, you know, have ongoing health conditions, but I'm sorry, all of those things pale in comparison to the blight that was the fucking Matrix Resurrections. Oh, for fuck's sake.
Oh, do you know what? I'm actually paradoxically really happy right now, because one of the things I was really concerned about, and I said this to you off air, PJ, on multiple occasions, PJ and I have always bonded over our love of the Matrix trilogy.
Yeah,
it was always us against them, wasn't it, PJ? And our previous 3 conversations, which, dear listener, if you haven't checked them out, I would argue that they are essential viewing before you listen to what we're about to talk about today. But it was always us against them. PJ and I are passionate defenders of the Matrix Reloaded, and even, I dare say, the Matrix Revolutions. Yeah. And my number one fear, PJ, which I told you off air multiple times, was that we would disagree about the Matrix Resurrections, and I'm so fucking grateful that we don't. I'm so grateful, because we're still kind of, you know, on the same page vis-a-vis the Matrix. We love the trilogy. This one, as I'm sure we're going to get into, we both had a very, very strong negative reaction to. But yes, let me just make this abundantly clear for any Doe-fan who doesn't realize it yet. But yes, this conversation is going to be filled with spoilers. We're not going to hold back here. We're going to discuss everything right out in the open, the entire plot, our opinion about it, and all the rest of it. So, needless to say,
caveat on that though.
Go for it.
I think the biggest, you know, spoiler here would be for anyone to spoil their evening by watching this film. Just don't do it. Don't worry about spoilers. I mean, save yourself the ultimate spoiler and don't retroactively, like, whatever you thought of the Matrix sequels, you know, like, I think unanimously everyone more or less agrees that the first one is a classic. But whatever you think about the sequels and the original one, this film can only detract from it, because it just, it's like, please don't try and tell me that this all exists in one continuity, because, like, you know, in the same way Tarantino, not to say that I agree with him, but he said that the sequels for him ruined the mythology of the entire thing. Well, if you were of a mind that, you know, successive entries into a franchise could damage something for you, well, I just don't see how this couldn't fucking hurt, you know, those movies. Whether you thought good of them or bad of them, you will think worse of them if you're someone who is of that mind, if you get me.
Yeah, I feel the same. I think this
Yeah.
film does nothing to enrich the mythology. It if anything hurts it, and I think I will be doing my best moving forward to I'll be doing my best to compartmentalize my brain and forget that I ever saw this. But again, just to make it absolutely clear, this will be a spoiler heavy discussion. So PJ, all that acknowledged, shall we dive right in? Do you want me to give a kind of a brief synopsis and we'll just go from there, perhaps?
Yeah, if you can give any kind of a coherent one, because I think I'm, you know.
Okay, so we're both, like, just truth be told again for the audience, PJ and I haven't compared notes. I literally messaged him a half an hour ago before we started recording here, and I said, so have you seen The Matrix? Actually, I called him and I said, have you seen The Matrix? And he said, I'm almost finished. I'm a half an hour from the end.
Well, what he
And
actually did was he actually sent me just a snap of your Mickey and just read, "You seen the new Matrix, lad?" Question mark.
Yes, that I didn't want to reveal that to the audience, PJ, but you know, now that it's out in the open,
All right.
I might as well just make that. I might as well just make that dick pic the thumbnail. The thumbnail. Although it hardly all fit in one thumbnail. But yes, I called PJ. PJ said he was a half an hour from the end of the film, and I think what I said to PJ was, don't hold your breath. The last half an hour isn't going to turn what you've seen into a masterpiece or anything.
You couldn't. There's nothing. There's nothing that could have righted that ship. Like, that was the, you know, we had hit the iceberg long ago. And we had taken on far too much water. There was no saving the ship at that fucking stage. It was bollocks long before that.
So, PJ, feel free to interject if at any point you feel that I've missed a detail, because this conversation is necessarily going to be quite scattershot, because your dear listener, what you're getting in this conversation is our thoughts raw and unprocessed. And so, again, PJ, feel free to interject here at any point. But my understanding at this point in time, an hour out of having seen it, is that the movie, well, we're reintroduced to Thomas Anderson, who is a video game developer, and we're told that the first three Matrix films that we as the audience have witnessed in this reality were actually video games that were developed by the computer developer or game developer known as Thomas Anderson. Is that a fair setup? Is that kind of where the film starts? Do you have anything to add to that, PJ?
Yeah, and I had read long before I seen the film that they were going to go down that road, and that they were going to do, you know, try their hand at some kind of like meta storytelling. And, you know, I thought that was an interesting idea, and I thought,
I agree.
like, yeah, I was like, okay, because, say, the continuity as it was presented in the first three movies, I think, you know, it had, you know, you couldn't have asked for a more conclusive ending to that whole thing. So to revisit it, I was wondering, okay, like, how is it possible to revisit this universe and make something even mildly compelling? And when it was suggested that they were going to go down a kind of a meta avenue, I thought, okay, maybe. I'm not too sure how one might execute that, but if you're going to go down that road, mayhaps you could make something worth watching. But alas, that was not the case. Yeah, I'll tell you what, I'll never forgive the fucking whoever produced this movie, whoever read this script and said, "Yeah, let's make this," that's who I'll never forgive.
Yeah.
Fuck's sake. But look, I thought the whole meta thing was an interesting idea, and I think that they could, let's say there could have been an interesting movie that acknowledged the Matrix as some kind of fiction, and while still existing within the whole kind of, there could have been something there, but that is kind of just like the opening third of the movie, maybe. And I think it kind of very quickly nosedives into the Force Awakens territory, where the movie is constantly basically going like, do you remember that excellent movie we made back in 1999? And it keeps going, do you remember that? That was fantastic, wasn't it? But it doesn't, like, that was more than 20 years ago. And this film, like, before we even get into the terrible writing, the fucking terrible casting, the fucking terrible dialogue, before we get into any of that shit, like, one would imagine over 2 decades later, that you would be able to make at least a movie that looked somewhat better. This looked like shit.
It did.
The fucking, oh my god almighty. I remember, like, people were critical of the special effects in the sequels. But beside this, they're photorealistic. I mean, this fucking movie just looked rubbish. And I mean, they had those things you could, even nowadays you can look back at them through a kind of a forgiving lens, because CGI was kind of in its infancy at that stage. But there's no fucking excuse for it now, and it looks a moon mile worse than the fucking special effects in the sequels. And it's I don't know, the whole thing is just fucking conceptually bankrupt. Like, I mean, it dips its toe into the meta stuff, and where you could maybe have gone somewhere with it, it didn't. And you've got a new baddie in it with fucking Neil Patrick Harris, who I'm like, okay, fuck off. That guy who isn't Smith, and you expect me to fucking like, for anyone who was a fan of, like, the original Matrix movies, and you're expecting to provoke some kind of reaction from the cast when they're watching Keanu Reeves fighting this lad pretending to be Smith, like, and you're just, fuck off. And some connection with this lad who's pretending to be Morpheus. Fuck right off. Like, Jesus, Mary and Joseph. It's like bringing back, it would be like bringing back, Mark Hamill for the Star Wars movie and recasting Han Solo and Princess Leia, and just expecting the audience to go along with it.
Larry Solo.
Yeah.
Oh, Larry.
Yeah. Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, I agree. I violently agree, in fact, with all of that. And just to pick up on a few points, and then we'll get back to the synopsis. The film reminded me, and I don't know if you've seen this film, PJ, but the film reminded me of Nightmare on Elm Street 7, or what is otherwise known as Wes Craven's New Nightmare. That's the actual official title of the film. And in fact, I think it's one of the best Nightmare on Elm Street films. It sounds strange to say because it's the 7th. When is the 7th of any franchise a good one? But it's an incredible film, and it was very well received. And it does the meta thing. What it does is actually follows the original actress who played Nancy in the very first film, but it follows her as an actor outside the reality of the films. The actor's name is Heather Langenkamp. I think that's how you pronounce it. And it follows her and the story, the meta story of the world. It literally follows her as a real person, quote unquote, who is famous because she was in the Nightmare on Elm Street films, or at least she was in at least the first and the third one. And it's her doing interviews on talk shows, and then Robert Englund, who infamously played Freddy Krueger, is in the movie playing Robert Englund. But then, of course, the story of the film is that Freddy, the actual demonic presence that is Freddy, is escaping the reality of the films to come into the real world. He's escaping the script and haunting the actor that played Nancy, because the demon that is Freddy in the script thinks that the actor who played Nancy is Nancy.
Okay. So
but
he's transcended this fictional realm
into the real quote, the real world. Yes, and it's a fucking fantastic film. It's a fantastic film. I love it. It is my second favorite Nightmare on Elm Street film after the first one. I think it's a masterpiece. Robert Englund himself, who played Freddy Krueger, said it is his favorite film. This is a diversion, obviously, and I'll get back on track. But suffice to say,
please divert from.
Divert as much as you like.
Yeah. Oh God. Divert forevermore, please.
But in any case, this film very much reminded me of Nightmare on Elm Street 7, Wes Craven's New Nightmare, because they do more or less, or at least they tip their toe into that water where they're suggesting that, maybe the original trilogy is actually just a video game series where Thomas Anderson developed them and we could go down that road. But then your description that they tipped their toe into it is actually quite good, because of course then the reveal, getting back to the synopsis, is that no, the original trilogy did happen. And I think we all saw that coming. You'd have to be an idiot not to see that as soon as the movie started, knowing what we know about the Matrix and the previous films. But it turns out that this is just another form of control created by the machines, who, it turns out, took over humanity again, took control of humanity again after the tenuous peace that was achieved at the end of Revolutions. They reasserted dominance, and one idea I did like, by the way, is that when the machines reasserted dominance, there was actually a civil war between the machines, that some machines didn't agree with it because they liked what Neo did, because the machines in the Matrix universe are sentient. I really like that idea. It's a lovely idea. They just did nothing with it. They showed us a glimpse, like a 5-second glimpse of what the machine war, civil war looked like, and then they cut away from it and we never saw it again. But that could be a film franchise of its own, the machines fighting amongst themselves. And anyway, I really like that. But it's revealed ultimately that the Matrix trilogy did happen. And that this was just another form of control to control the one. And, the reason Neo and Trinity are alive again is because, we resurrected them. Of course we did. That's the explanation. Oh, we resurrected you. And the explanation given for why they needed to be resurrected, did you understand that, PJ? They seem to imply that, I don't know, Neo and Trinity need to be alive in order for the Matrix to function cohesively. But did I miss it, or did they justify that claim?
You see, right. I think that was my approximation of it as well. But because the film up until that point was failing so hard for me in every fucking regard, I was having a very difficult time paying attention, or I had to fight myself to, I never thought that, on first viewing of watching a Matrix film, I would have to fight to maintain consciousness, but I fucking did. So that was the gist of it that I got as well. And I remember sitting there just kind of going like, what fucking bullshit is this like?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. It's just an assertion. I know that sounds like a strange phrase to use, because assertions are claims made in arguments that aren't backed up by any evidence. So what I mean by that is it's a thing that the writers have put in the script without justification. They've just said, now look, maybe upon a rewatch, if I ever muster the strength to rewatch this, which I don't know if I will.
Sweet Jesus Christ almighty. Oh no.
Did that cause you pain, PJ, the idea of rewatching?
Yeah, it's like it's what I would imagine.
Christ.
It's something like, say, some lunatic has you locked in a cellar, and he the arse off of you every night, and then just as you're recovering from it in a heap on the ground, the thought enters your head, fuck, he's going to do the same thing tomorrow night. Kind of like that. Mother of God almighty.
Oh Christ, I'm gonna have to put in some beeps in this podcast.
Yeah, I was texting one of the boys there just before we started the podcast, but I basically said to him, that it was absolutely fucking abysmal. Like I can't get over how shite it was.
Yeah.
And he responded by saying, keep your expectations low and you'll never be disappointed. To which I replied, no, my expectations were low, but they still managed to disappoint given that.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
somehow, and that's kind of impressive. You know? You go in there like, because we've had conversations about this, and I've been kind of like, oh look, sure, the train of thought that I've been kind of entertaining, and I think you have as well, is that, oh well, we'll always have the first three movies because we like all three of them. But yeah, I'm surprised at how much, like, I didn't expect it to be good at all, but I'm surprised at how fucking much I didn't like it.
Yeah,
Like,
same. I feel exactly the same, PJ. I feel exactly the same. My fiance, I'm ashamed to say, suffered through it with me, and she hated it. She really strongly hated it, and she loves the first three. Anytime
yeah,
I sit down and watch the first three, she doesn't want to rewatch a lot of movies that I like, but she'll rewatch The Matrix, right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
she hated this. The one thing she said at the end, she turned to me when the credits rolled, she looked at me and she said, if you buy this on 4K, I'll watch the first three with you, but I'm never watching this one again. That's what she said to me. And
Yeah.
I said, I won't be buying this on 4K, don't worry.
Where yeah,
Christ above. If
yeah,
anything, if I do, I'll just mass buy all of the 4Ks and put them into a big pile and set it alight so that no other eyes may be tainted or stained or destroyed by having watched this film. Christ above.
yeah, just don't allow it to infect anyone's opinion of the first three movies. And
Yeah.
again, regardless what you think of the sequels, I think, I don't know, I think you'd need your fucking head examined if you were to try and make any kind of a claim that this crock of shit was better than either of the sequels.
Let's challenge ourselves here for a moment, and I know this is going to be a challenge given what we've said thus far, but let's see if we can say anything positive about the film, because there's definitely a couple of things I liked.
It's over now. There you go.
No, I have to say I liked the idea. I liked the meta idea, and I think you've already agreed that you liked that. They just executed it terribly, right?
Yeah, yeah. You see, that's you see, there's a whole hodgepodge of ideas there. So some of the ideas on paper are interesting.
Yes, I agree. Now,
Yeah,
which ones though? So I liked the meta idea, but I'll tell you another idea I liked. I really liked the idea that they were controlling him through the meta, although that's arguably just a derivative of the meta. But one thing they say, and it's just a throwaway line, and it would have been awesome if they included this in the film itself. But he attempted to commit suicide. He tried to jump off the
yeah.
building. It reminded me, actually, this is a perfect example. They did this in a film before. They did it in Inception, right?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Where Leonardo DiCaprio's love interest, Marion Cotillard, wasn't it?
yeah.
In that film, she can't get rid of the idea because inception has occurred and an idea has taken root in her mind and spread like a virus, essentially. And she can't lose the idea that she's living in a dream world. And unfortunately, that leads to her killing herself because she does wake up from the dream world, but then keeps having the feeling that she's not woken up from it. And so she commits suicide, thinking erroneously that this suicide is going to help her to wake up into the real world when she's already there. And it seems that that's the throwaway line seemed to imply that that's exactly what happened with Thomas Anderson, aka Neo, in his new Matrix, if you will. He can't shake the feeling that he's living in a simulation. That right there would have been a film, or at least one act in the film that would have been amazing to explore. But again,
Yeah,
lots of good ideas, PJ, but not explored. Lots of good ideas that we tip our toe into, which is why I'm going to keep coming back to that phrase because I think you really hit the nail on the head with that. Lots of good ideas, but just none of them really fleshed out or executed well.
yeah. One thing as well that was just terrible in this movie. I know we're supposed to be talking about things that we like, but I'm gonna really fucking struggle on that front. Um, but it was so tonally inconsistent. Like,
Yes.
for the meta thing to work and work properly, it would have had to have a tone that was akin to the tone in the first movie when we first meet Thomas Anderson, Neo, and he's living in the real world, and he's living in the Matrix, and he's beginning to doubt, he has been doubting for a while, and he's reaching out trying to find Morpheus and the internet, and the agents get involved. You would need that sort of tone to carry that meta thing and make the world a bit more believable. I mean, he was surrounded by all these cartoony shit extras with abysmal fucking dialogue, and they were just almost like comic relief characters or something like that. And I don't know, maybe someone could say, oh, well, that's just that maybe that's why, that's to sell the idea that he's doubting his reality and all that. But I no, fuck off. It was just I've seen that kind of thing done and done well, and this was just awful, just fucking terrible.
It looks like I'm going to be shouldering the burden of anything positive here, but that's fine. Let me try. I will say, and I don't imagine you're going to agree with me on this. This might be our first little parting of ways, shall we say? But I did like the character of Bugs. Was it Bugs or Bugsy or something? I thought she
blue hair.
Yes, I thought she was quite good, actually. I felt they didn't, like, the script is terrible, clearly, and so she didn't have a lot of good material to work with, but I liked what I saw of her performance. I thought, that's a good actor. I can't wait to see what she shows up in next.
Well, look, I don't have anything terribly negative to say about her. She wasn't, like, yeah. No, I don't have anything against that character or the actress. That just the script was shite. She was one of the lesser offenders. But I suppose the characters that I'm talking about are like, the ones like the colleagues of Thomas Anderson in the video game company.
Yeah, dreadful. Yeah, dreadful. Yeah, I agree with your assessment entirely. Cartoon characters who felt like extras. And I don't know if you stuck around till the end credits, but there was a post-credit scene. Did you see that?
No, nor will I be going back to watch it.
Well, let me tell you, it was the most, oh my God, the most offensive, just ridiculous thing ever. It was them.
The nanosecond that the credits came on, I was like, done.
it was all those extras that you hated sitting around that conference room table talking about how they're going to make a cat tricks with all cats. That was the post-credit scene, PJ. How do you feel about that?
I feel glad that I didn't stick around to watch it.
Oh, Christ above.
Do you know, like, and this is what I'm talking about, the whole tonally inconsistent thing as well. I mean, like, fucking none of the movies before this ever tried to also be a comedy. And like, you had like maybe comedic elements here and there where someone might have a quip or a one-liner. Now, nothing like, Marvel movies or anything like that, but you had some quips that kind of fit in with what was happening, like Trinity's line in the first one, the whole dodge this thing, and then shoots the agent in the face. That was funny, but it also fit. That wasn't an out of character thing for Trinity to say for sake of a cheap laugh. It was funny, and it also fit the context of what was going on.
Yeah.
So, but this movie is full of like constant attempts at fucking, shit humor, and a lot of it was Morpheus. Some of the, kind of, oh, here I am coming out of the cubicle of this fucking toilet in a crazy suit, and now I'm the comic relief character, when Morpheus was, anything but that. And for a movie as well that was kind of, for a franchise that pioneered kind of a lot of martial arts and special effects stuff in movies, all of the martial arts and all of the special effects, all of the fight choreography, all fucking dreadful.
Yeah, you're getting into the territory now, which is my key reason, frankly, for despising the film. There are plenty of films with bad scripts that have great fight scenes, and I'll watch
Yeah,
them
yeah,
because I love good fight scenes.
yeah,
I absolutely adore good choreography, and that is something that obviously Revolutions is an exception to this. The only fight in Revolutions is the very final fight between Smith and Neo. But The Matrix Reloaded and the first Matrix film are filled with fantastic fight scenes, with amazing choreography. And when I say fantastic fight scenes, I just want to sharpen that up slightly. What I mean is when the fight scene is shot with integrity, it's not done with shaky cam and 20 cuts every 5 seconds. It's when the filmmaker has confidence in the choreography that they've created, that they can hold on the actors executing the choreography because it's just being done so well. I would refer any listener to the fight in the subway in the third act of the first Matrix film. There's shots in that fight between Hugo Weaving's Smith and Keanu Reeves' Neo, where the camera doesn't cut for maybe 10 to 15 seconds at a time because
yeah.
they're just nailing the choreography. All of the fights in this, there's a sequence on a train in Tokyo,
Oh,
and you cannot make head nor tail of what's going on. Cut, shaky cam, shaky cam, shaky cam, cut. And there's another sequence towards the end of the film where the Merovingian returns. Oh, Christ above.
mm,
Oh my God, PJ. But that fight sequence there is just unbelievably, laughably bad. I would go so far as to say that the fight choreography in Power Rangers is superior.
but that's no exaggeration at all.
It literally isn't. Like, I'm not being
No,
hyperbolic. The fight choreography in Power Rangers that I watched on TV as a kid was better.
yeah,
Like, this
like
is just actually unbelievably bad. Now, people use phrases like unbelievably and shockingly and things like that far too often. But I tell you, if they were ever reserved for a purpose, it was for the purpose of describing the fight scenes and the choreography and the camera work in this film. Now, I'm no cinematographer. I'm not talking about cinematography. I don't know what lenses were used. I don't know what depth of field was involved. I'm not a cinematographer, but I do know fight scenes. And I do know good fight scenes. If you want to watch some good fight scenes, watch the first Matrix, watch The Matrix Reloaded, or watch the Ip Man series, or even watch the John Wick films. To
but
say nothing of the scripts in those movies, those fight scenes are sensational. This film should hang its head in shame. It's unbelievably bad.
you like, but you don't even need to be anything even approximating,
A
a film buff
cinematographer.
or or you don't have to claim to have seen lots of martial arts movies. The only qualification that you need to know that this is bad is a set of eyes. That's all. Like,
Yeah.
fucking Jesus, like, oh,
Yeah.
mother of God Almighty. Like, I'm actually flabbergasted at like how fucking bad it was. Like,
This is actually historic because I just, the listeners need to know this. And having been a friend of PJ's for a very, very, very long time, PJ doesn't, and I hope you won't mind me saying this, PJ, but your emotional range
yeah,
doesn't vary massively. You know, even
no,
if a film was good, you'd be like, grand, yeah. Or if a film was bad, oh, didn't care for it. For you to be flabbergasted, it's actually quite historic. For you to be flabbergasted, this film really, really fucked you off, PJ. This really fucked you off.
it's just kind of like, in a strange way, it's that whole kind of too far east is west kind of thing. It's like, as if it was the most sensational movie in the world and they couldn't shut up talking about it. It's like that, but on the other end of the spectrum. It was
Yeah,
so unbelievably bad that
yeah.
I'm having difficulty processing it. I don't know how you fail on every single level. I mean, I don't know, have I watched a movie before where I just thought that it failed on literally every single fucking count. Like, I'm not, I'm really not fucking joking when, like, you were saying there, okay, let's challenge ourselves and try to find something good to say about it. I can't, and I don't think I've ever had that reaction to a film before. I've always been able to at least find something, but I really nothing like.
And you know what? I'm
Absolutely
not going to
nothing.
hold your feet to the fire on that. I'm not going to blame you for that. I can totally buy. And again, just the fact that you were flabbergasted at all,
Yeah,
I totally buy that you can't find anything positive to say. As I said, I don't mind saying I found a couple of positives. I liked Bugs or Bugsy, whatever her name was. I liked the meta narrative idea, albeit it goes nowhere. I liked the suicide concept. I thought that was, that could have been explored in amazing ways, but wasn't. I like the idea of the machines having a civil war of their own because they disagree about whether or not we should reassert dominance. I also like the idea, and it proves you correct, PJ. When we spoke about the Matrix Revolutions, I believe it was in that third conversation, we discussed how there could in fact be a peace between machines and humans, given the fact that machines require humans as a battery source.
yeah,
So how can they possibly subsist or continue? And there was a throwaway line about, oh, there are methods of survival that we're willing to entertain, or wasn't the line by the
except,
architect, except something like that. Yeah.
yeah,
This film confirms that in fact there was a huge disagreement amongst the machines about how they're going to subsist, and some of them decided, no, sorry, human beings are for the chopping block, we need to use them as batteries basically. And others, the humanitarian machines, if you will, felt that that was a bad idea, and perhaps maybe it's just a case that we need to reduce our numbers or something like that. That's all addressed in the space of 30 seconds, and as I said, they show a quick shot of the machines fighting amongst themselves. But that could have been an amazing plot thread had that been unraveled and explored. But instead, like the other good ideas in this film, it's a throwaway line that is just left to wither in the darkness. Um, yeah, it's a profoundly bad film. I've never seen a film with so many good ideas in it that still ended up being a trough of shit. Because to be fair to Lana Wachowski, the script has good ideas in it, but they're just the foundations of good ideas. They're not executed well. They're not explored in a way that would be entertaining. And the camera work, as we've said, on the choreography is abysmal, and it shits all over the previous trilogy. And it keeps calling it a video game, and yet they're showing shots from the first film being projected, and they're telling Thomas Anderson, aka Neo, oh, so here's a shot from your video game. No, that's not a video game shot. That's a shot from a film. Why are you calling it a video game? At least put a kind of an animation filter over it. I mean, like on Snapchat or something, so it looks digitized, so that I can buy that this is actually a video game. But you're just showing us shots from the first movie and claiming that they're video game shots or something. I don't know. I'm starting to meander now, but yeah, it's not good, is it, PJ?
no, it is not. Absolutely not. No, it is anything but good. Oh my
Let's
Christ.
talk about one of the worst things about this, something that you and I were concerned greatly about, PJ, in the lead up to this film, and that is the recasting of two major characters.
Oh
Those
God
being
Almighty.
Agent Smith
Yeah.
and Morpheus. Agent Smith is played in this film by an actor. His name is Jonathan Groff, I believe. And Morpheus is played by Yahya Abdul Mateen II, I believe his name is. And I tell you, I've read some reviews where people said that they managed to capture the essence of those characters. By
Fuck off.
Christ,
Fuck off.
by Christ, I've never heard something so profoundly wrong in my whole life.
Who made that statement? Did they see the original fucking movies? Like, I mean,
It
what?
must have been a blind person.
Yeah, what? Like, I mean, how did they arrive at that conclusion? Did they decide, oh, your man is black and he's got a shaved head, therefore, yeah, he's nailed it, and this fella is a white lad and he's shouting Mr. Anderson, nailed it. I mean,
Oh.
was that the burden of fucking
Of capturing the essence.
yeah, was that the standard that had to be met? Like that was the prerequisite because that
By
would
that
have to
standard,
be.
I could have been Agent Smith.
Yeah,
I'm a
you
white guy.
you'd have done a
I'm
better
I'm
fucking
the
job than that,
whitest.
lad.
I'm the whitest guy. I'm Irish.
I actually have absolutely no fucking doubt in my mind that you would have fucking delivered a better performance as Agent Smith. Do you know something? Actually, do you know what? You'd have delivered a better performance as fucking Morpheus as well for that fucking. Oh, fuck. I'm just perplexed.
Darren McGrath showing up in the Matrix Resurrections as Morpheus.
If they cast you as every character in the fucking film, it would have been a better approximation than what they fucking presented. Oh, Jesus, Mary and Joseph.
I have a pain in my stomach.
I have a pain in my mind.
Oh, Christ.
Like, I'm wondering, like, you know,
Oh, Christ.
like,
Oh, fucking hell.
outside of doing something deliberately, like deliberately making something absolutely terrible and laboring over it for, like, how long is it since they released Revolutions? It's been nearly 2 decades since.
Yeah, it's been about 20 years, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's as if you got the world's brightest minds and brought them all together, and they all brainstormed for 2 decades on how to fucking make the worst follow-up that you could possibly conceive of and execute it. Because that's the way I fucking feel about it. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I know I'm trying my best to find some positives here for the sake of balance, but even I'm acknowledging and conceding, as in when I discuss those positives, that those positives are just the mere ideas that were in the script. I'm not suggesting that they were executed positively. They were executed terribly.
But because, you see, in a strange way, because there are some good ideas present, it almost makes the overall experience worse.
Yes.
Because it's just like,
because there cannot be true despair without hope.
Yeah, kind of. Like
Bane nailed it in 2012. There cannot be true despair without hope. Good ideas in a script it poisons you with hope for what could have been.
I thought The Dark Knight Rises was shite, but now because shite has taken on a new fucking meaning after watching that, I can't apply that label to it anymore. Any film that I've ever seen in the past that I thought was shite has now been elevated a few fucking rungs.
You might have to reevaluate your entire shit library.
Yeah, the fucking the metric has just been shifted now altogether.
Yeah.
Like, Christ almighty.
But like there were such missed opportunities. I mean, Neil Patrick Harris, getting back to the synopsis, he is, in the opening of the film, he is Thomas Anderson's shrink, basically, right? He's helping him, he's psychiatrist, he's helping him work through this suicidality that he's experienced and this feeling that reality isn't real. Clearly, this is a machine program that is trying to indoctrinate Neo back into the Matrix so that he's not a threat or not a problem. Something like that. The analyst is revealed to essentially be the new architect.
Yeah.
Why didn't they just, I mean, maybe the actor who played the architect has since died. I mean, it's been 20 years. I don't know if he's still knocking about, but let's assume for a second he's still alive. There was a chance there to recast.
Oh, but sure,
or rather, not recast, but have that actor return and take up his role again. Imagine how amazing he would have been as the psychiatrist. You know,
Laurence Fishburne and Hugo Weaving are still alive. You know,
exactly.
There was no reason not to bring them fucking back either. You know,
exactly.
But the main reason not to bring them back is, you know, they're fantastic actors who played beloved characters. Yeah, let's not bring them back. For fuck's sake! Oh
yeah.
God!
Yeah, Mighty. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that if we had this exact same script, PJ, but the original architect actor was playing the analyst and Hugo Weaving was in it as Smith and Laurence Fishburne was back as Morpheus, this would still have been a shit film. Let's face it.
It would have been, but you know something? Like, I'm just imagining now, had the scenes where, say, and they're like, oh yeah, go into the office there and talk to your business partner. I know you don't really get along, but blah, 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 blah. If they went in and Hugo Weaving was waiting in there, like, I would have, I'm conceptualizing it now and visualizing it in my head. I would have definitely felt a surge of something to see the two of them on
Yes.
screen together again. And in spite of the fact that it would have been a terrible film, that would have been a positive sensation that I would have felt.
Yeah.
And the movie, as it stands now, is devoid of that completely. Like, don't
Yeah.
tell me that I should care about this because you're calling this guy Smith when he's not.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I mean, obviously, for mega Matrix fans like us, seeing Hugo Weaving back as Smith would have excited us, if only for a moment. The same would have been true if Laurence Fishburne had returned as Morpheus, if only for a moment. All I'm saying is that even if they were in this is still a shit script. It's still a shit story. It still would have had all the same shit choreography and all the same shit action scenes. I'm just saying that they couldn't have saved it. They would have given us a brief glimpse of positivity or some kind of sense of contentment, but it would have been brief, it would have been short-lived, and the film would still have been a trough of shit, wouldn't it?
Oh, absolutely, but still more good than we're ultimately left with in reality.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like, I don't know. Like, I mean, how? I just don't understand. If like when you're coming back to a franchise after 20 years, like, set within the same continuity with the same characters. I just don't understand how you could even like conceive of executing the movie without bringing back, crucial members of the cast, iconic and beloved characters. When there's, I know there was scheduling conflicts with Hugo Weaving, but I seen an interview with Laurence Fishburne, and his response was that like when he was asked about it, he was just told that no, he wasn't asked back. Like that when this script was dreamt up, that he was never a part of it, and that to me is just like, how fucking out of touch do you have to be with, like, do you not understand why people liked these characters in the first place?
Yeah.
Why? Oh, for fuck. Oh my god. I don't know.
I mean, am I mistaken? But there seemed to be, I mean, they didn't confirm it, but like there's a statue of Morpheus in this new city. I can't remember what they called it. It wasn't Zion. It was like
Yeah.
IA or Aya or something.
Who gives a bollocks?
Who gives a shit? Yeah. They
Yeah.
might as well have been just called Who Gives a Fuck. Yeah. But they had a statue of Morpheus, and this was another good idea in the script. They said that Morpheus believed intrinsically that Neo had saved him and that there was no need to prepare for battle anymore, that the prophecy had come true, basically, yada, yada, yada. And that, in other words, Morpheus continued to be the faithful fool that he was, basically.
Yeah.
And they seem to imply, albeit they never say it explicitly, that he died or something.
Yeah.
Like, why else would there be a statue of him? And
yeah.
So, in other words, the real Morpheus is killed off screen.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what a way to shit on a character's legacy. I mean, it's really offensive for people who hold those characters dear to just off them off screen. It would be different if Laurence Fishburne, goodness forbid, had perished in the meantime.
Yeah.
And they had no choice. But like when Laurence Fishburne is alive and being asked, so what's the story with the new Matrix? Oh, they didn't even call me. Like, what the fuck is going on? And when I read about Hugo Weaving not being cast as Agent Smith in this film, he's on record as saying that, yeah, I was all set to go. I was going to be in this film, but I had a prior engagement and Lana Wachowski wasn't willing to wait. And so, simply because of a scheduling conflict, Hugo Weaving wasn't able to return. If they had just delayed it 6 months or however long, then he would have been able to be in it as well. But instead, Lana Wachowski just plows ahead and recasts Smith's character.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's just utterly despicable.
Absolutely fuck you, Lana Wachowski, then.
Yeah.
Absolutely fuck you.
Yeah,
You
I think I
fucking
can shed.
plonker.
I think I can shed some light on that. There was a bereavement there, basically. Parents died or something like that. That's what I've read. I've read around the edges. I haven't read it in depth or anything. And for Lana, this was all about dealing with grief, and the whole film was about the exploration of grief and so on. And so perhaps Lana felt that it was necessary to do it now and couldn't wait for Hugo Weaving to be ready. And look, real life matters more than films and movies, right? Let's just, cut to the chase. I'm happy, I'm healthy, my fiance is happy and healthy, you're happy and healthy, PJ, although this is where PJ says, I've never been happy.
What I was going to say is, well, I'm healthy.
Yes. But look, you know where I'm coming from.
Physically,
right?
anyway.
You know where I'm coming from. So look, I respect Lana Wachowski. If Lana Wachowski wanted to deal with grief and that's what was necessary, and Lana felt it was necessary to do it now and not later, well, look, that's Lana's journey. Lana has to be Lana. That's fine. It's just a shame. It really is a shame, because Hugo Weaving was clearly integral to the Matrix. Yeah, absolutely integral, and an essential piece of the puzzle. And the fact that this film, the film really suffers with the absence of these titans of the franchise, those being Morpheus and Agent Smith.
I'm not nearly as understanding as that. I'm if Bruce Willis wasn't available to play fucking Die Hard character, what's his name in that? John McClane.
Yeah.
Well, then you don't have a movie. And
I agree.
As far as I'm concerned, that is the case with either one of the two, Laurence Fishburne or Hugo Weaving, and absolutely the case, unquestionably the case, if both of them are absent. It is unfathomable for me to even conceive of reviving that continuity without either of them.
And look, I might be, extending too much of an olive branch here, because obviously, if we're to believe Hugo Weaving, and I see no reason why Hugo Weaving would lie about this, it was a scheduling conflict. But in the case of Laurence Fishburne, if we're to believe what Laurence Fishburne says, he wasn't even contacted. So I don't know, PJ. It doesn't pass the smell test, does it?
No.
There's a funky whiff there, and I don't know what went on behind the scenes. Perhaps we'll find out in another 20 years when somebody writes, a history of the entire thing or something. But all I know is that it doesn't pass the smell test for now, and what we're left with is to call it a subpar film would be actually a compliment. It's an absolute colossal mess. It's a catastrophe of a film.
To call it a subpar film would be a disservice to subpar films.
Yes, I agree. But getting back to the synopsis, because we're almost at the end of the film, as it were. So
thank fucking Christ.
Thank Christ is right. So it's revealed.
Speaking of Christ, I do have a small little caveat there, actually.
Yeah, go for it.
And it's kind of it kind of ties into the whole kind of thing about faith and all of that kind of thing, which was a running theme throughout the original movies. This movie has actually gifted me a renewed faith in a higher power, actually, and I can tell you how that came about.
Please do.
Yeah. Last night I had planned to go to see this in the cinema after work, so I booked a ticket online, and my plan was.
I know exactly where we're going with this.
Yeah.
What?
I knew you weren't going to accept it on face value anyway. Yeah. So I booked a ticket last night in the cinema down here in Cork, and because of the whole COVID situation, the latest showing that I could book was at 5:00 in the evening, which was straight after I finished work. So my plan was, because that cinema is on my way home from work, I was going to go straight after work, straight into the cinema and watch it in there. And I was like, I was going to go and watch it by myself because I like to do that. I like to watch films in the cinema by myself. So that was the plan. I was all set to go. Ticket was booked, but because I'm the current job that I'm working in, I'm only in it about 6 weeks, and we're flat out fucking busy at the moment. And I'm trying to make as good an impression there as what I can. So anytime they ask me to do overtime, my rule is just accept every time without fail. And today was one of those days when they asked me, will you work on? Will you do some overtime? And I said, yeah, I would. And I said, oh shit, now I can't go see that film. But because I had paid an extra euro or something like that to give me the option, like a kind of a flexi time option. If I wasn't able to attend the movie, all I had to do was make a phone call. But yeah, I rang the phone number to, when I was on my break to get the viewing time changed. I was going to go and see it in the cinema tomorrow. But for whatever reason, the helpline was closed for whatever reason. I don't know the fuck. So they had an email, and I emailed
refund
them.
my whole.
Yeah. I sent them an email, and I just asked them. I was like, can I change this time to the same time tomorrow? I have to work late today. And then they responded to me and they said, oh, we can't facilitate that request, so we're just going to refund you the price of the ticket. And I was like, okay, grand. So they did that. And I came home then, and I downloaded the movie, and I watched it. So I managed to watch it, and I didn't contribute a fucking penny to that piece of shit. And that's enough for me to believe that there was a higher power that funneled me down a certain path of causality that led to me not contributing any fucking money whatsoever to that trough of shite. So
you do realize you just admitted to illegal activity on a podcast that's going to go up onto YouTube.
Yeah, and I would encourage everyone to do the same. If you feel you have to see this film just to satisfy your own morbid curiosity, please, for the love of God, and just for if you've got any bit of respect for money, whatever about your time, if you don't respect your time enough that you'll waste the 2.5 hours of your life, despite the fucking warning that you've gotten from this podcast, and most reviews that I've seen pop up about it, it's being more or less panned universally. So it's like the sequels were at least somewhat fucking divisive. There was some people that liked them. Now they were overwhelmingly negative. I would say probably more people didn't like them than did, but it seems to be heavily in the favor of people don't like this movie, and with fucking good reason.
I'm not sure to what extent you're being hyperbolic, but I will push back on one thing and say that, yeah, I really dislike this film. In fact, I might even use the word hate. I think I hated this film, and evidently you did as well. I would, however, if anybody is going to
Where'd you get that idea?
I would, however, encourage anybody who is thinking about seeing it to actually go to a cinema and see it. And that's not because I care about this film, but because I actually care about the theatrical cinematic experience. And cinemas have been hit really, really hard because of COVID. And if anybody is going to go see it in the cinema, I just know that each and every ticket counts more than it's ever counted. And so if you value and care about the theatrical experience, I would encourage you, even if you're planning on checking out this film, I would encourage you to do it through legal means, whether that means go to a cinema, or if you can get access to HBO Max, which I know is not available in the UK or Ireland or Europe more generally. But I've heard that through VPN you will be paying for it, legally paying for it, but through a VPN you can fool your computer into thinking it's in the United States. Now I know that's a legally grey area as well, and so for the record, I'm not necessarily recommending that. But if it is in a cinema near you, I would encourage you to see it in the cinema, if not, or if only rather for the sake of the theatrical viewing experience, and hopefully preserving that into the future. And one other thing, even though the film was bad, it's bad for reasons that have to do with Lana Wachowski's writing. And I guess what we're discovering is that Lily is Lana's sibling, Lily Wachowski. I think it might be Lily, but whoever Lana's sibling is, what we might have realized in watching this film is that the other side of the Wachowski siblings was actually the side that brought to bear the awesome choreography and the filming of said choreography, and the fight scenes being as awesome as they were and the action scenes being as awesome as they were. But look, all that acknowledged, many more people than Lana Wachowski worked in this film. All of the people who just work behind the scenes, whether it was just getting the food prepared for the actors to eat, or the people who do the lights on set, the person who's cleaning up in the evening time, all of those people's careers and that entire industry relies on people going out to the theaters to watch these films, whether they're good or bad. And so, again, I'm not sure to what extent you were being hyperbolic, PJ, but I just wanted to say, I wanted to say that because I personally, and I have a very self-serving reason for this, I care so much about the cinematic experience. I don't want cinemas to die. I don't want the future of film to be me watching films on Netflix. I love going to the cinema.
Nor I, but what I would encourage anyone to do is go to the cinema, watch another film twice. Just don't do anything. Don't do anything that contributes money to this. Don't reward anyone who had a hand in constructing this piece of shit. With it's bad enough to think that you'd give them time out of your finite existence, but you'd actually give them legal tender as well. That to me is just that's a fucking, if there was a god, that would be a crime against him.
Do you know what? That's a totally fair middle ground. I would encourage the same. I mean, look, everything's subjective. And by the way, PJ, there are people who do like it. I'll get to that in one moment. But
yeah, if you're one of those people, get help. Get fucking help.
But that is a solid recommendation. I would agree. Go see another film twice. Go see No Way Home, the new Spider-Man movie. It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible.
Go see a psychologist. Go see a fucking psychologist if you like this fucking film.
So
there's something seriously wrong.
We'll get to the critical reception. I wanted to close the conversation by talking about the critical reception in a moment, but I just want to get to the end of the actual narrative of the film. So after it's revealed that the analysts, aka Neo's or Thomas Anderson's psychologist, it's revealed that he's the big bad, basically. He's the new architect. He has control of the Matrix down to the very minutest detail. So when Neo comes to try and rescue Trinity later in the film, the analyst is able to create bullet time at will, which makes Neo move in slow motion, and so the analyst can do whatever he wants. And so, yeah, the analyst is revealed to be the big bad, and then he threatens to kill Trinity unless Neo plugs back into the Matrix and everything can go back to the way it was. And they devise a plan so that they can fool the analyst into thinking that's what's going on, but really they're saving, like a heist, basically. They're stealing Trinity from the machine city so that she can be woken up. And there's a ball of contrivance that explains how that happens, including a digital Morpheus who can travel through pipelines, and Sati returns from the Matrix Revolutions who can now hack into... They basically go backwards on the rules where you could never unplug someone while they're in the Matrix. Well, they figure out a way of unplugging Trinity from the Matrix and plugging her into a portable pod that they can then fly her away in, or something of that nature. Oh, it's a ball of contrivance. But ultimately, it's revealed that Trinity, I guess, is the one now. Is that what I was supposed to get from that?
Yep.
And why? Like, what did you get? Just honestly, PJ, rather than just, it's just a ball of shit. Like, can I just ask you, because I'm just concerned that I missed something. Did they give a reason for why she's now the one? Did you notice something? Because I didn't.
I didn't, but like I said earlier on,
you were struggling to focus.
Struggling to keep watching the thing, to see the thing out to the end.
Yeah.
Like, I was really fucking struggling. I wanted it to end so badly. Maybe there was a piece of dialogue in there, regardless of whether there was or there wasn't. Like I said, the ship was sunk long before that for me.
It was terrible, wasn't it? It was just... And even when they revealed that she's the one, they do it in the most aesthetically awful way ever. They jump off a building, and then suddenly she's just stuck in the air, like she got caught in a cobweb or something.
Yes.
It's like... And then Neo is, I'm not doing this. and then she just says bye and flies up into the air in the most obvious wire work I've ever seen.
Yeah,
I
like
just
people. Yeah, do you remember people fucking gave that scene in The Last Jedi with Carrie Fisher flying out in space like
yeah.
Mary Poppins? They give that shit. Well,
Right.
this is in the very same wheelhouse as that. Like,
It is. Yeah, it's worse. In fact,
yeah. I
it's
mean,
actually worse.
at least there's some kind of contextual justification for the Carrie Fisher scene. Like, well, she is the daughter of fucking Darth Vader and therefore can
Yeah,
use the Force.
force
And,
sensitive, all this business. Yeah,
yeah.
but
Regardless of how stupid it looked, it made, I don't know. Look, this made The Last Jedi, like, just fucking seem fantastic. Like,
and
The Last Jedi is an infinitely better film than this.
and the action sequence that leads to Trinity and Neo on the roof before they jump off to reveal that she's the one, where they're both on the bike, like,
Yeah, and you've got this 28 Matrix later thing where everyone is now just chasing them
yeah.
for some reason.
I mean, that
Oh.
makes sense, to be fair, to use your own words. I mean, that there is a prerequisite for that. I mean, clearly anybody, like Morpheus even says in the first Matrix, anybody connected to the system is our enemy, basically. So I don't dock them too many marks for that. But one thing that looked aesthetically awful was that rather than Neo fighting anyone or actually having a battle with anyone, he was just going around with a force field around him the entire time. Like, he was just like always in a bubble. That's the way my fiance described it. She was like, "What's up with Neo just always being in a bubble and deflecting everything in a bubble?" It just looked dreadful. It was, oh my God. Words are failing me here. I don't know how many other ways I can describe something as shit.
Yeah, that's it. So,
And then when it's revealed that the analyst is the big bad, and then they pull the wool over the analyst's eyes with the whole kind of, we're smuggling Trinity out of the Matrix without him realizing it, yada, yada, yada. Smith shows up again and is suddenly on Neo's side in the fight. Did you understand that revelation?
no.
No, nor I. Now, to be fair, PJ, and this is not me, tooting my own horn here or anything, but I think you and I are two pretty reasonably intelligent moviegoers. Like, I'm not saying we're the Einstein of film watchers or anything, but we're smarter than your average bear when it comes to movies, right? I mean, we've both watched an enormous amount of films. We study film, we think about film, we analyze film, we watch YouTube videos about film. My YouTube watch history is just replete with analyses and dissections of properties that I love, right? And I couldn't figure out why certain things were happening in this film. Now, maybe the film was just beyond me, and maybe upon a rewatch, if I ever dream about doing that, a lot of it will make sense. But I don't know. It didn't make any sense to me that Smith was suddenly now fighting against the analyst, and suddenly the rule that the analyst could just stop time and make everything slow motion didn't apply to Smith, and they seem to justify that with reference to the old films where Smith is like a renegade. He's outside the boundaries of the system or something. But that actually isn't what the old movies said. The old movies said that Smith just refused to be deleted. He was a renegade program, but he was still subservient to the rules of the system. That was Morpheus's whole point. Any program or machine in the system has to play by the system's rules. That's why they'll never be as fast or as amazing as the one can be, right? So I don't know. I felt it didn't make sense. If the Matrix was rebooted, you know, and Smith is part of the reboot, why would Smith be able to violate the rules and go against the bullet time of the analyst's creation? And did any of that make sense to you, or am I just rambling here? Do I sound like a lunatic?
No, but like, again, I just keep coming back to I I I had long checked out by that stage,
Fair
and
enough.
I just can't accept some other lad that people are just treating like, that's Smith when it's not Smith. That's
So let me make you sick then, because, and this will probably bring us to the conclusion of this conversation. this misery fest that has been a conversation about the Matrix Resurrections. Well, it's on 69% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh God.
Which means, just so people are clear, that means 69% of the critics on Rotten Tomatoes said that they liked it. That's all that means. It doesn't mean that when you add up all the scores out of 10 that it ends up as a 6.9. That's not what Rotten Tomatoes means. The percentage measurement on Rotten Tomatoes is just a measurement as to whether or not a critic has said that they liked it. It doesn't involve a score at all. So what it means is, let's imagine they lined 100 critics up against the wall and asked them, did you like The Matrix Resurrections? It's a binary answer. It's yes or no. If they say no, they're added to the no pile. If they say yes, they're added to the yes pile. So 69 out of 100 critics said that they like it. Now, obviously, it's vastly more than 100 critics that will submit their point of view here, but I just wanted to make it easy with a number like 100. So that's all that means. 69 out of the 100 critics lined up against the wall said yes, they liked it. So however many critics submitted their reviews, and I'm pretty sure I could get a rough number. So there's approximately 170, 180 reviews tallied on Rotten Tomatoes as we speak. So out of those reviews, 69% of the critics in those reviews said that they liked it. And you'll be upset by this, PJ. 70% of the audience said that they liked it. So you and I are in a minority, my friend. Yet again.
So, oh, for fuck's sake. I mean,
I know.
If ever there was a reason to doubt your reality. So this movie...
Turns out we're in the Matrix.
Yeah. Fucking hell. Do you know what? I might, have a go, do the whole Thomas Anderson thing and go and jump off a fucking building. Like, if we live in a world where this film is better received than its two predecessors.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to swallow, isn't it?
Oh, for God's sake. It would be easier to fucking guzzle fucking load than it would be to fucking swallow that. Oh,
so the consensus on Rotten Tomatoes says the following. If it lacks the original's bracingly original craft, The Matrix Resurrections revisits the world of the franchise with wit, a timely perspective, and heart.
No.
Yeah, I know. This is actually... I feel like I live in opposite land. That's honestly like... I feel like we're all looking at... I don't know... I can't even... Oh, my words are failing me. Like, we're all looking at a house and everybody else is saying, no, that's a boat. It's a ship, like. And I'm like, no, that's a house. And they're like, no, that's a boat, Derek.
Yeah,
what?
Yeah.
Like, what? So let's read some of the specific critic responses, right? So Austin Collins of Rolling Stone says, it is a Matrix movie that could only have come with 20 plus years of hindsight and insight. I was moved, impressed, far more than I expected. I don't know what film. I don't know. Jesus, I can't speak. I don't know what film Austin watched, but
reconsider your career, buddy.
Melanie McFarland of Salon.com wrote, The Matrix Resurrections is a better messenger and cultural analyst than a cinematic spectacle. It may not deliver the original's thrills, but yada, yada, yada. Again, generally positive. Let's look at another one. Travis Hopspun of Punch Drunk Critics. Wachowski deserves credit for eventually bucking the programming and telling the love story she wanted to tell, because it's clear that she did. Another one, Jonathan W. Hickman, the Noonan Times Herald. The unnecessary... it is a positive review. The unnecessary fourth film in the Matrix franchise has fun spoofing itself early, only to go full Matrix as Neo chases the rabbit once again. Let's read one we might agree with. A rotten review by Mike Granigan from Aisle Seat. The Matrix Resurrections is roughly 80% exposition telling you what's going on, and I still didn't understand the damn thing that was happening. That I agree with. Let's read another rotten one from Christian M. Lynn from Fort Worth Weekly. Inception tackled the idea of playing around in a constructed world with better results, and Free Guy went down so much more easily, yada yada yada. I couldn't agree more with that. I didn't read these in advance. I swear to the listeners, and I swear to you, PJ, I did not read these in advance. I was avoiding all reviews because I didn't want to spoil the movie for myself. But yeah, this person is comparing it to Inception like I did, only Inception obviously executed it far better.
Yeah.
But look, that's just a sample of reviews. I could read more, but you know what? I'm done with this film.
Yeah.
I think maybe we've even talked about it for too long. We've been recording now for over an hour, and I will say, PJ, that I do feel quite down about it. Obviously, I mean, I haven't seen a Matrix movie in the theater in 20 years. Although I will admit, and I told you, I went to watch the first one. They re-released the first one in the theater just a couple of weeks ago here in the UK, and I went to watch it just as a kind of a thrill for myself, and that was amazing. But I haven't seen a new Matrix film, shall we say, in the theater in 20 years. And
I just really hope that this doesn't hurt my appreciation of the older ones. I hope I'll be able to scrub this from my mind the next time I'm experiencing any one of the original trilogy.
You know what? We'll be fine, and I think I know why we'll be fine. This film is meta enough that it's actually really easy to excuse it. I think it's really and the recasting. You know what? Be careful what you wish for. If they, in an alternate reality, had they actually cast Hugo Weaving and Laurence Fishburne, and the film was really, in terms of continuity, it felt like an actual extension of the original trilogy, it would have been harder to scrub from our minds. But because Agent Smith is played by a stranger, essentially, and because Laurence Fishburne is not in the film, and because it shares so little DNA with the original trilogy, I think this is going to be very easy to ignore. I suspect now, look, maybe I'll cry myself to sleep in the future when I realize that that's not the case. But I suspect if I was to put money down right now, PJ, I would say that this film will be relatively easy to compartmentalize and box away and forget about and never think about again.
I hope you're right, lad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts on the film before we wrap this up, PJ? Because as I said, we've been running now for over an hour with this misery fest.
No, I think I've just been spewing criticism and being utterly incapable of or saying anything that even approximates appreciation, because I don't think I've ever had it before where I've had nothing good to say about a film.
It is a shame that our quadrilogy of Matrix movie conversations has to end on a negative, isn't it?
That's it. We are on record, I think, in one or perhaps more of them saying that we went into this like wanting to come away going, yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
But I think it was a concern that any fan, I think, had. But like, say, I think when we were talking about the Matrix Revolutions, like, it's that problem when you give something a conclusion, and then you have a perfect conclusion to something, and you come back to it. More often than not, I'm trying to think of examples where it's worked, and I'm really struggling. Like, say, Terminator 2, that had a perfect conclusion to it. And the only thing that they managed to do by making successive movies was detract from that and cheapen the ending of that. The same with Star Wars, the new trilogy. They just detracted from the fucking everything that was great about the ending of Return of the Jedi. Like, the new ones completely destroyed the sacrifice of Darth Vader and all that, and all they did was retroactively make the conclusion of the original trilogy worse. And I feel like that's what this movie does, if you can't compartmentalize it, and now it all exists together. All it does is damage the what we spoke about at length, the whole Christ narrative and the sacrifice and the the whole dying for our sins and all that kind of thing. All that has gone out the window now. All that is utterly meaningless, and this was a big concern that the pair of us had. So this film is just on every level an utter write-off.
Yeah, I think ironically, this fourth film, resurrecting Neo, creates the exact same problem that the actual Christ narrative upon which the original Matrix trilogy is heavily built. I think this fourth film, by resurrecting Neo, invalidates his sacrifice, because now Neo didn't commit the ultimate act. He didn't kill himself. He didn't sacrifice himself for humanity. What he did was sacrifice a couple of days for humanity, because he was resurrected, and now he's just pure grand now, like. And that's exactly the same problem I have with the Christ narrative, where people say Jesus died for our sins. No, he didn't. Jesus gave up his weekend for our sins. On the Sunday, he was resurrected, and 40 days later rose to heaven to sit at the right hand of the Father for the rest of time. I mean, Jesus is having the fucking lulls in heaven. I mean, are you kidding me? What a way to invalidate a sacrifice. And that's exactly what they've done with this fourth Matrix film. They've completely invalidated not only Neo's sacrifice, but Trinity's sacrifice. She died on the mission, on her mission too. And this film just, they're alive again. Why? Because machines brought them back. Don't ask.
Yeah.
And it's, for fuck's sake, it's
and now,
actually just unforgivable. Speaking of unforgivable sins, if you want to stay within the Christian theme here, the fourth Matrix film is just an unforgivable sin. Fuck's sake.
Yeah. You know, let alone its crimes against fucking writing, against
it's Christ.
cinematography.
I could just imagine you, PJ, sitting atop a Sanhedrin who's about to lay down a punishment for the crimes committed by this film.
Yeah, it's got some fucking indictment against it, let me tell you. You know, you've got crimes against fucking cinematography, special effects, dialogue, fucking
choreography.
Choreography, yeah. Crimes
casting.
Against casting. Yeah, there you go.
We're on the same thought there, PJ, I tell you. Fucking hell.
Fuck me. Like,
on the same wavelength.
You know, as much as I'm disappointed by it, I'm also really impressed in another way that they got it so fucking unbelievably wrong.
It's definitely impressively bad.
Yeah, like, that's why it feels like it had to have been engineered to me. You know, you had to have set out to do that. I don't see how you could accidentally make a bollocks of something so badly.
Yeah, it definitely beggars belief, my friend. But look, at risk of becoming something of a loop ourselves, I think it's I think it's time to park this conversation. What do you think?
Yeah.
So
I'd recommend the film anyway.
8 out of 10.
Yep.
Fantastic show. Can I just apologize to the listeners, because I know this conversation will... The other 3 conversations we've had, PJ, were celebrations of the trilogy, and the comments that are attached to those videos, people, even when people disagreed with us on Reloaded and Revolutions, people in the comments appreciated our, you know, just joyous kind of enthusiastic celebration of those films.
we were like little fucking kids, basically, going, we're dead, the fighting in the pissing rain, and great.
Yeah. I love it. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Mr. Anderson.
We
missed you. Oh, man.
And I would love to be having a conversation now where we're like, you know, and they called back to this and that, and it was great, but that's just not the case. But if anything, it shows that we're definitely objective and we're not just fucking Matrix fanboys, and we don't lap up everything that they just fucking throw out, because, you know, I mean, we've done nothing but fucking tear the fucking piss all over.
Well, there's a positive, PJ. There's a positive.
Yeah.
A meta positive, if you will. Beyond the reality of this film, at the very least, those who now see our hatred for this fourth installment will be able to see, as you pointed out, that we aren't just mere Matrix fanboys, and we're not just going to drool all over any Matrix property. Our hatred and strong disliking of this film proves that, doesn't it? And so, there's a silver lining in this very, very awful cloud.
Yep.
But yeah, I just wanted to say apologies to the listeners for the overwhelmingly negative tone of this podcast on the Matrix Resurrections. But at the end of the day, I promise you nothing on my channel other than the truth. And I know PJ is steadfastly committed to that as well. And so I knew in this conversation we would do nothing other than give you our honest perspective on the film. We didn't like it, and that's it.
And the objective, it is objectively bad, and that is simply the case. And that's the way it is. And if you had a different experience,
you are wrong.
Again, you are incorrect and in need of psychological help.
Yes.
You
need an analyst of your own.
Absolutely. Preferably not Neil Patrick Harris, though. The fucking.
Oh, Christ above. But in any case, guys, thank you very much if you got this far in the conversation. It has been tradition to finish all of these Matrix conversations with some kind of a reference to the conversation that proves that you got this far. So, PJ, we're spitballing right now. What would you like the listeners to post in the comments below as proof that they got to the end of this abysmal and pessimistic discussion?
Oh, God.
What would be a nice sentence that they can throw down there that we'll find is instantly recognizable? Preferably something that refers to how shit the film is.
Yeah. See, there's so much shit in it. Where do you begin? Yeah, I think should it maybe have something got to do with the absence of the real Smith and the real Morpheus?
That's a great idea.
Yeah,
that's a great idea.
That's that's one of the film's biggest
Here's an idea. Post either hashtag justice for Smith or hashtag justice for Morpheus.
Yeah. Or
what do you think about that, PJ?
Yeah. Or hashtag this film shouldn't have been made.
yeah.
Or else hashtag there are 3 Matrix movies.
Yes. Okay, right. Let's narrow it down to those. So hashtag justice for Smith, hashtag justice for Morpheus, or hashtag there are only 3 Matrix films. Yes, I agree. That's a wonderful way to leave it. So, dear listener, if you got this far in the conversation, those are the 3 things that we'd like to see you in the comments below. And of course, if you use one of those, it doesn't have to be a hashtag necessarily, but if you put one of those in brackets or type it into the comments, you will receive a special little heart from myself and a response to go along with it. And I would love, of course, if indeed you've seen the film, or even if you haven't, to discuss it in the comments below. And that's where the meat of the conversation usually transpires. If you've ever been in the comment thread of any of my videos, you'll know that they tend to go on for quite a bit. It's become something of a full-time job responding to you guys. But you know what? I love it. I'd have it no other way. And I enthusiastically welcome any of those conversations. Just as I will enthusiastically welcome PJ back on the podcast anytime he so chooses to visit. PJ, it's always great to have you on here. And can I just thank you for joining me here tonight for this slightly pessimistic or overwhelmingly pessimistic conversation, dark, negative conversation, but truthful nonetheless. It was a pleasure having you here, my friend, as always.
Thanks, lad. I'm away to get sick into the sink now.
Yes, just whatever you do, don't do that jumping off the building thing you mentioned. I don't want to forget about that crack now. None of that. Not having you get out of this miserable existence and not taking me with you. Fuck that. If only to spite you, I can't allow you to bow out of it early, you fucker.
Yeah.
If I'm going to be suffering, you're going to be suffering as well, you bollocks.
Yes. Well, do you know something? I feel like whatever hardship life throws at me, it will seem significantly less harsh given the fucking terrible experience I had tonight in watching that fucking write-up of a film.
Well, look, at the very least, PJ, we had a nice conversation. Like I know this conversation has been negative, but I've enjoyed, shitting all over the film. So, I if I know you like I know you, I think you've enjoyed it as well.
Yeah. Well, look, it's just as well that there was something for me to enjoy because, oh God.
Well, look, at the very least, maybe some people might enjoy this podcast. I dare say, in my arrogance, that this podcast is going to be a hell of a lot more entertaining than the fucking film was. That's for sure.
That's a fairly low bar, lad. That's a very low bar. That's like saying people might enjoy this podcast more than they would enjoy being kicked into the teeth several times in quick succession.
Kicked into the testicles.
Yeah.
Oh, Christ above. All right, guys. Thank you very much for listening to this podcast. It's a shame that we have to finish this Quadrilogy of Matrix conversations on a negative, but you know, PJ, maybe we'll sit down and discuss the Animatrix, which would be a nice uplifting thing to do at some point. Maybe if you're up for that, something worth thinking about. If you would be interested in that, dear listener, jump into the comments below and let us know. Yeah, I know you'd be up for it. You'd be up for it, PJ, wouldn't you?
Fucking love anime, boy.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's something that we can consider. That would be awesome. Yeah. I think you're the resident expert on anime, so you might have to lead that conversation, take the bull by the horns, if you will. But I'd be happy to go on that journey with you if you want to have that conversation.
Take the horn by the bull.
Oh, for fuck's sake. I feel like I've tried to wrap this conversation up 20 times and I keep failing. Oh, Christ.
Well, it's just me throwing a spanner in it constantly.
Yeah, you're such a spanner, lad.
Yeah. Well,
I love it. I love you, really.
Thanks, lad. You know,
like, comment, subscribe, okay? If you like the video, like it, comment below, you know the deal. And if it's your first time here, you probably didn't get this fucking far in the video, but if you're hanging on by a thread, hit the subscribe button if you like what you heard, and don't forget to check the bell notification icon so that you can stay up to date with the latest videos.
Do not pay money to see the fucking Matrix or the Matrix Resurrections. Do not pay money.
Yeah, pay me money.
Yeah.
Do that instead. I'll put my PayPal in the description.
Yeah. Fuck it. Give child money. Just don't give money to the people who made that fucking film.
You're making my editing job so difficult. There's so many things I'm gonna have to bleep out of this fucking podcast. You fuck.
If only you could bleep that film out of existence. But
wouldn't that be fantastic? Anyway, we hope to see you in the next one, guys. All the best. Bye. Oh, you're a fucker, I swear to God.